hellish world inhabited by horrifying creatures, manufactured and disposable mutant slaves working endlessly as cogs in the machine, and a masked assassin on a mission to detonate a bomb behind enemy lines. These are the first few sceneries from the opening of the 2021 movie Mad God. It's a film that not only stands out for its freakish and unique visuals, but also for its production history, as the film itself took over 30 years to make. First, a quick look at the mad lad behind the Mad God. Phil Tippett is an Oscar and Emmy Award-winning visual effects supervisor who specializes in creature design, stop motion, and digital character animation. Phil has had quite a hand in some of cinema's most iconic franchises. In 1975, he and John Berg were hired to create the stop-motion miniature chess scene for the original Star Wars film. They then went on to be head of the animation department at ILM for The Empire Strikes Back, where Tippett co-developed the animation technique called Go Motion. He then led the Lucasfilm Creature Shop for Return of the Jedi in 1983, winning an Oscar for it the next year. That same year, he created his own company called FesliyanStudios, and in 1986, he animated the robot sequences for the movie RoboCop. He also worked on whatever the fuck Howard the Duck was supposed to be. That movie had duck titties. Duckies. And then, in 1990, while working on RoboCop 2, Phil began working on a project of his own, entitled Mad God. Mad God was an idea that Phil had for a stop-motion animated film, though at the time he only had a vague concept of the film's tone and imagery. Phil did make somewhat of a treatment for the movie and shot about 3 minutes of footage during his free time in the late 80s. Between his time working on big-budget film productions and running his studio, Phil would create characters and draw storyboards for his film. However, in 1991, Phil was supposed to work on the Go Motion animation for the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park, but instead, the CGI team at ILM had created some test footage of a digitally generated T-Rex, which Steven Spielberg loved. The digital revolution had begun. Phil had initially thought his career in the industry was at an end, but thanks to his background and understanding of animal movement and behavior, Spielberg appointed him as animation supervisor for 50 dinosaur shots for Jurassic Park. The problem, however, was that working on Jurassic Park led him to believe that the days of stop motion were over, and Mad God was shelved. It took encouragement from members of his studio about 20 years later to restart the project with the help of volunteers. Phil stated in an interview with The Guardian that not all the volunteers had the talent or skill required, but that he would get 15 to 20 people helping out, and had some of them do all the heavy lifting that didn't involve artistic expertise. He later realized that the movie needed a bigger budget, so a Kickstarter campaign was set up in 2012, which obtained a little over $124,000, exceeding the original $40,000 goal. Nevertheless, it did take 5 more years to complete the first 2 chapters of Mad God, with parts 3 and 4 in the making, and 4 years later, in 2021, the film was finally completed. However, right after finishing the film, Phil went through a mental breakdown, causing him to be institutionalized for roughly a week at a psychiatric ward. He was subsequently diagnosed with unipolar depression. It's not clear how much the production of Mad God had a role to play in this, but it isn't difficult to think that it must have taken quite a toll on Phil. Thankfully, since the film was finally finished after 3 decades in production, Phil got better, and Mad God was picked up by the streaming platform Shudder a year after premiering in 2021 at the 74th Locarno Film Festival. The movie is an interesting piece of art. This is one of those films that's more of an experience than a story with a singular narrative for the audience to follow. It's clear to me that Phil was mainly interested in creating and establishing a universe and its atmosphere. Every frame of this movie gives you this sense of epic dystopian scale, which is impressive considering everything in this film is a miniature. The design of every room, prop, and scenery adds to the roughness of this world. The blend of live-action footage and stop-motion animation gives it this classic B-movie look. It feels purposeful and stylized, and adds to the uneasy feeling of the world with these live-action characters interacting with these uncanny creatures. What I love about this film is that it's actually the opposite of what mainstream movies tend to aim for. While your typical film tries to be as polished and crisp as possible, Mad God thrives with its crude, rough DIY look. If I can describe the visuals of this film in the simplest of terms, it's that it has texture. If you're confused what I mean by that, it's that just looking at the screen, you feel like you can take your hand and feel the rusted metal being displayed. You can sense the thickness of the atmosphere, the slimy, bloody, gross, and sticky fluids that emit from every corner. Though the film does have somewhat of a narrative, with an assassin traveling through the wasteland and the destruction of civilization or something, But by now you could tell that that's not what I'm interested in. Mad God isn't a movie that you'd necessarily care about the spoilers, since in my opinion, there is really nothing to spoil. The film is more like a horrifying surreal painting come to life. You just gaze at it and then contemplate how it's a big metaphor for how modern society functions and the need to rebel against it, or something, I don't know, that's what Google tells me the movie's about. I was too busy thinking how there's a creature in this film that has massive testicles for a butt, and it looks straight out of Rick and Morty. If you love the aesthetic of creepy stop-motion animation, as well as that of heavy prosthetic B-movie horror films, along with all the gore that comes with it, then this is definitely a movie you'd enjoy. Also, if you really like the art direction of the movie 9 from 2009, as well as the video game Little Nightmares, then this is definitely something you'd like. I have so much praise for everyone that made this project happen, and especially for Phil Tippett, because who else can create such an insane, nightmarish realm full of monsters, titans, and cruelty other than a mad god? Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new here, my name is Sami and I make videos talking about interesting media, mainly lost or obscure films and series, or in this case, cult classics. And I also make my own films and shorts, with a deep dive into the making of process of each project. So, if you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
Duckies.